Hey, everybody, welcome to the strategy session. I am joined tonight by my good friend and esteemed colleague, Joe Trippi. Stuart is traveling this evening, and so we are going to have a show with you that I think you are really going to enjoy. First off, we are going to talk tonight about a lot of the things going on in the polling, the post-conviction craziness, all the other stuff that's been shifting the battlefield a little bit towards Joe Biden in the last week to 10 days. But we are joined tonight by Leigh McGowan of Politics Girl. You know her podcast. You know her excellent Twitter feed. You have seen her around on the news. If you haven't, let's roll a quick clip to remind you of just who she is.
The disrespect of women is a worldwide, universal, age-old problem. But the 21st century disrespect of American women is something else. How dare you strip us of the autonomy over our own bodies? How dare you let us suffer and die from treatable medical complications? Frankly, how dare you suggest anyone takes abortion lightly or are out here murdering babies up to and after birth because of our politics? That's disgusting and disrespectful, and it only shows how little you know about the field of medicine or understand about the responsibility of pregnancy.
So Try not to deliver it too much more perfectly, okay? That was so on the money. And Leigh, thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah,
we love you dearly.
absolutely.
We're so grateful to have you on the show. And you know, as I teased in the beginning, we're going to talk a little bit about where we all see the political climate. I think we can all, for once, give our audience a little bit of optimism in the last week. There are polls that are shifting. We're feeling it out there in the political environment. And of course, Donald Trump has responded to that by a very surprisingly articulate policy discussion about sharks and batteries and electric boats. So, but welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Where do you see the field right now in the 2024 race? And what's your read on what's changed since the convictions?
Well, listen, I think the convictions are very interesting because I think a lot of people didn't think they were going to happen, including me. I thought for sure we'd get a hung jury. That's just how it rolls. It's how we go. I think seeing justice actually happen was such a pleasant shock to everybody. And then
Right.
saying like, hey, we really do have the kind of country where it doesn't matter where you sit. The law applies to everyone. And I think that gave people a sense of worth in our country again. Like everything isn't just broken, things can be fixed. And it's very, very hopeful. I think even if everything else is stalled because of the Supreme Court or because of, Cannon or whoever it is, you have this one conviction, which is actually such a big conviction. People forget how important that case is. It's not just about paying off a porn star. It's about what he did to win an election that he never should have won in the first place. And that in itself is such a big deal. So anyway, I really am my 15-year-old is calling me because he refuses to listen to my texts. When I said, do not call me. But honestly, I think the whole thing is that we have children. I was just talking about being a mother and being pregnant and being in America. Like this has always been the most important thing to me. I was at strategy meetings a year ago and people were talking about getting back into bars with Trump voters and MAGA people. And, I thought, did you see what happened with Dobbs? Like, I honestly think, and I'm talking to two men, but I don't think it's ever been a question for me that women were going to be outraged and it wasn't going to go away.
We saw it in 2022, Joe.
Yep.
Just
But
how
it's also
it's
both convictions. I mean, what's interesting about this whole thing with the Hunter Biden conviction too today is the difference. I mean, where in the Hunter Biden trial, the jurors are talking freely about their deliberations and how they came to it, and without any fear. They don't seem to have any fear of retribution or somebody coming to get them or any of that kind of stuff. No, just weird when you compare it to that other set of 34 felony convictions. I mean, it's just, and the reaction on both sides. President Biden saying he'll accept the judgment of the judicial system versus. It's that contrast. It's not. It is, I think, a very good thing that the people are seeing. Whether you agree with the Hunter conviction or the Trump one, that you're seeing this all play out totally differently in terms of respecting the rule of law, the trial, the jury system. There's 24 citizens, jury of their peers, and the reaction's completely different. And of course, in the Trump jury, not a peep, because and very smart on their part.
Right.
Yeah.
They know not to not to put their heads up because they've already been doxxed, and if they were to, they would be threatened, intimidated, and probably attacked. Right.
Yeah.
I have to say,
Absolutely.
honestly, though, one of the things that what Joe's saying is if there's any question that there's this weaponized Justice Department under the Trump administration, this Hunter Biden thing completely kiboshes that. This is the president's own son. And if the Justice Department is all Joe Biden's doing and he's manipulating it from behind the scenes, why would he have let this go down, right? I think it really, really breaks down that argument beautifully and just says, this is how he works. We went through a jury of our peers and this is what we got. Now, there's a question to be said, like, would we have even followed the Hunter case if he wasn't the president's son? That's a good question to
No.
ask.
No,
How
but
many
you
people
also,
have bought guns under drugs?
but
Lots. But still.
But they were both hometown juries. I mean, there was
Yeah.
this is Delaware. They knew you when you see the juror saying like, oh, Jill, we all felt, I enjoyed seeing her, but it didn't impact us. They're calling her Jill. I mean, it's like they know these people, and they still said no. We found him guilty. Now he has the right to appeal, and the president said he'll stand by that. Whatever that happens. But that's what I'm saying is it's that contrast between here's Trump reacting to the results of his hometown jury. The people who know him, those jurors knew who he was, knew what he was about, looked at the evidence and said, no, you're a convicted felon 34 times. But and they clearly don't feel as safe as those Delawarean jurors.
Right. One thing that I think is really important for us to talk about for a minute is we're seeing, if Trump is reelected right now, we're seeing the last moments of an American judicial system that we recognize.
Yeah.
When you go through and you read out the Project 2025 documents, when you look at what the Supreme Court has now, they're now out in the open about what they are as a political wing of the Federal Society, Leonard Leo, and the MAGA movement. When you look at this, we really are. I mean, I think what we're seeing right now in these two cases, it really shows you part of what the stakes are for 2024 is that if we don't defeat Donald Trump, the courts will never hold a friend, family member, or ally of Donald Trump to account ever again. And right now, we're seeing Hunter is convicted, Steve Bannon's going to prison, and Donald Trump has been convicted 34 times of 34 felony counts. And hey, MAGAs, I know you're all up in my time. I'm going, it's a sham trial and the charges are fake and there's no law. Y'all are all wrong. I'm sorry to say, I'm not an attorney, but I can read the English language. But we're seeing like the last gasp of the judicial system if we don't beat this guy in the fall. Leigh, I'll start with you and then we'll go to Joe.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that we have to beat him. Everything that we hold dear as what our American values, including the rule of law, is dependent on this election on November 5th. There's absolutely no question in my mind that we don't probably have another election again. Or if we do, it's a Putin-style election where he cannot lose and then he picks his successor. We do not have a justice system that works the way it's supposed to. It works the way Hungary's does, where it's like who the leader wants and wins and who the leader wants to have, in court goes to court. And this is the way it is. Even if you just look at his immigration policies, he's going to start deporting people he doesn't like their opinions of. That would be me. I was born and raised in Canada. Like, if I'm not at Guantanamo, like, I am out the door back to Toronto.
Well, and let's be real, they have been very clear. Lindsey Graham this weekend said, we'll start deporting legal immigrants. Yeah. And I was like, well, let's say the quiet part out loud, Lindsey. What do you say?
Yeah.
So I think that there's a real degree of tension right now where a lot of Americans rested a lot of hopes on all four cases. We're only going to probably end up with the New York case coming to conclusion because I think, and I think you guys probably agree, I think the Supreme Court's going to give him even more of a delay or even more of a pass on the immunity question coming up in the next few days.
Yeah, I'm surprised they won't fly a flag for it.
Yeah. I mean, and Joe, what do you, I mean, do you see
They
the
will
same
fly a
thing?
flag for it. Sorry.
Oh, well, you know what? We've actually got a Project 2025 ad in the hopper here.
Oh yeah,
That
let's
we
see
just
that.
released. Let's roll that, Sam, if we could.
They say Project 2025 will change your life. For once, they're telling the truth.
Donald Trump gets in for 4 more years. He's going full throttle.
Project 2025 is Trump's plan to make America different, less free, less fair, less American. It's a roadmap for total control. Trump's control.
The gloves are off. There are no holds barred here.
Not just of the government, of your life, of your body, of every one of your freedoms, of what you can read and say, and where you can travel. He'll round up American citizens, use the government to punish his enemies, put the crazy and corrupt in power forever.
It's 4 years of scorched earth when Donald Trump retakes the White House.
But he promises to only be a dictator for one day. One day, sure.
I still feel like way too many Americans. I know, look, we all are submerged in politics every day. So, Leigh, I mean, do you think Project 2025 has like penetrated into the minds of ordinary normies out in the country yet? Or is it still like us?
No, of course not. I mean, here's the thing, Rick. I did an entire episode on Project 2025 as my top of year show in January because I was
Right.
like, no one has a clue.
Yeah.
We went
It's a,
through every single major element of it. And the amount of feedback I got, people were like,
oh my
what?
God.
What? Because it's true. I mean, it's so outrageous.
Well,
Outrageous from every level. Like, it doesn't matter what you're into in America, they're basically taking it. You like porn? It's gone. You like
Right.
Christianity? Only this version. You like, gay rights? Gone. You like women's rights? Gone. It is a Christian fascist nation. It was written by the Heritage Foundation. They know exactly what they're doing. They are brilliant men who also happen to be evil. And we can't pretend that they haven't done this because they said, we didn't get it the first time. We didn't get it when we tried to steal the election. This time, if we get him back in, we're getting everything we want from day one. And that starts from Schedule F as soon as he gets in and mass firing people and doing loyalty tests and making sure that everyone who is in place will follow through with those orders. There won't be a,
Right.
General Kelly there to stop
yeah.
it. There won't be a Mark Milley to stop it. Those people are out and everything they want is in, and everything you can imagine from an authoritarian dictator, we will get, and we will get immediately.
There won't even be a Mike Pence. I mean,
Nope.
it's just, I mean, there will not be. His VP is going to be somebody who will actually, he will never have to worry about hang Mike Pence or hang the new, it'll be somebody who will absolutely go in there and do exactly what he wants on, going
Total
into
loyalty.
Absolutely.
And it'll be somebody who has already shown in this sort of warm-up act they're all doing. I mean, folks, you should know, you're going to hear a lot about Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio right now. Both of them are not trying to be VP. They're trying to both be Secretary of State. They're competing for that. VP frontrunners are J.D. Vance, who his cut crease is amazing. His makeup is so on point. It's fabulous. Elise Stefanik is still in the hunt, even though Trump does not think she looks the part.
No way.
She's too
not
dowdy.
Pretty enough. Yep, she's not pretty enough.
No, and God knows she tried, but he has a strict idea about women should look a certain way. They must be hot. They must be from Central Casting.
It's too bad Kristi Noem shot that dog. She would have had a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, look, she was definitely.
That may still get her. I disagree. That could still get her the job.
Oh my God! But what we have seen, though, I think, is all of this sort of spritzing about the VP thing. It is going to end up with a person who is an absolute Trump loyalist in every way. As Joe said, there will be no Mike Pence, even behind closed doors, saying, "Mr. President, I think this is a little too far. You shouldn't do this or that," or even saying, "Maybe we should do this." You won't even have a VP who suggests a different direction.
I don't know.
No,
JD may have blown it. When he was on Fox and Friends and started talking about how they were asking about whether you've ever committed a crime or lied. I mean, he's saying that stuff out loud about what the vetting process that Trump was putting him
Right.
through was, and they kind of like just I don't know. It's like that's one of those things where he could have just dinged himself for no good reason. I don't even understand what
I'm
he
going to
thought he
release all my
was.
emails with JD from 2016 when he was on this Never Trump list that
Yeah.
I was on. I'm waiting to do it. We're going to wait till he gets a little closer to the pick. But JD, it's going to suck, man. I'm sorry for you, brother.
I think it's going to be Tim. Right
It's not
now,
fun. Say more about your theory of this case because I'm intrigued.
yeah, no, I think it's going to be Tim because I think Trump's going to want something that he doesn't have. I think he took that for the religious people. He wanted the religious. He wanted the evangelicals. He took Mike Pence because he was told to, because he would get the evangelical vote. And I think Tim is what he doesn't have. And Tim has absolutely prostrated himself over and over and over
Oh,
again to prove
Oh
his
yeah,
loyalty.
absolutely.
And he loves that. And, I think that right after the trial came out, every single one of those EP wannabes did like an apology tour for Trump like you've never
sure.
seen. It was like one person after another, just embarrassing
The
themselves.
grace
And
of my Lord.
it was unbelievable. I was like, did you guys all get the talking points? And Tim went with this one, and JD went with this one. Like it was unbelievable. But I think that Tim offers something Trump doesn't have, which is obviously he's really trying hard for the black male vote. He's not going to get the black female vote, and it is possible. That's who I think has the bot
Well,
right now.
I just want to ask you, because we were talking a little bit before. You said you had a lot of optimism about where we're going, and I wanted to explore that, given what we've been talking about for the last 15 or
You
20
know,
minutes.
we are seeing shifting in every bit of public polling right now. And
Yeah.
Joe, I'm going to give Joe full props on this. Joe was saying 6 months ago that it takes a while for the good economic news to trickle into the minds of voters. And we are now seeing voters saying that their economic situation is better. We're now seeing voters moving to Joe Biden. We're now seeing in likely voter surveys, people are now saying, these convictions do matter. And they don't have to matter at 20 or 40 or 50% of the voter pool. We need them to matter for 10% or less. I think we're starting to see, and look, there's a ton of hard work ahead, folks. There's no taking a day off now, 153 days to go or whatever the number is. There's no taking any days off. But we are starting to see, I think, a recognition that Biden's been a successful president, even if it's grudging by a lot of voters. We're seeing that the idea that we're in an economic hellscape is not working the way it did. And they're seeing who Donald Trump really is. It's not only that he got convicted, it's that he acted like such a childish shit after he got convicted and, threw such a hissy fit and is so much weirder and more kooky and strange out there on the stump than he even was in 2020.
Yeah. Also, he's doing all this weird stuff like waving to nobody and going out, so that they can put people in later. It's very peculiar. I do not think he has the support that we are being told on right-wing media that he does. I think that ultimately it goes back to what Joe's saying about me being positive. Look, if I look at day to day, I'm not positive. It's depressing, right? You look around, you go like, oh my God, how are we ever coming back together? We're so divided. Like, this is terrible. These are about the worst people in the world that are running Rick's old party. Like, I mean, these people they're garbage people and it's terrible and they have terrible ideas and it hurts my heart because I moved to this country as an immigrant. I chose to be here. I believe in America, but I also believe that there are so many more of us who really believe in the values of America. And even if you just take the women, like honest to God, we are as a unit absolutely outraged. And the Republicans are doing nothing to help with that because every day they double down and have us dying and losing organs and
Right.
they do not care. And then they all get together in the Senate and they vote against protecting contraception. And you go, people are paying attention. And if you have young people paying attention to that, like you're saying, Rick, it could be less than 10%. But if they're all, 22-year-old women, then we're in great position because they're not stupid. Women are not stupid and they see which direction we're going and they don't want to go there.
Exactly. There's another group of women that they are deeply underestimating. And I've known this dirty little secret of the Republican Party for 25 years. between 22 and 28% of Republican women are pro-choice. And that means some of them are Roe v. Wade style pro-choice, and some of them are libertarian, like stay out of my shit pro-choice. If you have even half that number, call it 15%, call it 12% of Republican women who are like, not for me, pal. It's over. He's going to get blown the fuck out. He's going to get wrecked if that number holds. And between 15 and 18% of Republican men are in the same box. This Dobbs is the gift that keeps on cursing them. It's like a chunk of radioactive waste that has printed on the surface of it, drop this and run. But they can't. They're stuck in it now. And so I think that the idea that all these states right after Dobbs passed didn't say, let's cool it off. Let's see if we can be sensible about this. But instead went like, I'm going to pass a 12-week ban. No, I'm going to pass a 10-week ban. I'm going to
let's get this bill from 1879 back on the books. Yeah, like
I'm going to pass a ban that says you're pregnant the minute you swipe on Tinder. It's crazy. And I think it's going to really. I think that is a factor with women voters, and it's also with. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say with Dobbs dads that have 16, 17. Yeah, women, girls who are hitting adulthood, or even younger, but they're suddenly. I mean, these were white guys essentially who hadn't given a thought about abortion or the rights, the reproductive health freedom of women, and all of a sudden they're seeing. I mean, pre the overturn of Roe v. Wade. But now it's like, wait a minute, I hadn't thought about that. And, what about my daughter here? And I just think, and contraceptives, man, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So it's not just women here. I really do think they're having a problem. And you put on top of that the 31% of Republicans before these convictions who said they would not vote for Donald Trump if he was convicted of a crime. So I'm not talking about all 31, but some of those are Dobbs dads. Some of those are these women that have woken up post the decision. Some of them are Nikki Haley supporters who said they weren't likely to vote for him in November. That's going to erode. It's not going to happen bang overnight the second the convictions come in, but there's going to be a slow bleed there.
Right.
And I think we're starting to see it. I mean, I think we're starting to see that while, again, the economy is sort of registering more with people. And then Trump is incapable of not being the sexist, racist, thug, crazy dictator wannabe that he's going to be and say. And I think that's going to keep pushing those people away. But, that's mine. But I wanted to hear, Leigh, what are the things that you're looking at that make you feel like we're on the right path here going into November?
Well, I think we're on the right path.
What do we need to do?
What do we need to do? I was like, we're on the right path because we're on the right side of all these issues, first of all. Secondly, I think it's hilarious that people go through life like not considering abortion at all. Like it must be such a pleasure to be men in this world where you're like, wow, it's the first time I've thought of this. And you're like, really? We live in such different worlds. So I think it's so important. It's one of the things I said in that rant you were playing earlier that like, women are so underappreciated. Like every single one of you is here because a woman did the work. I mean, we did the labor, both metaphorically and, physically to bring you guys into the world, to bring every single person in humanity into the world. And I'm not saying, we brought you into this world, we can take you out. I'm saying we deserve your respect. Like, what are we doing? What are we even talking about? Can you imagine you're talking about men are suddenly saying, abortion does matter. And I'm like, what if we were making laws to say, hey, we're going to take men's rights? Literally the outrage would be beyond the beyond. We wouldn't be talking, which side? I don't know. Like maybe the economy, we'd be like, they're taking your rights. We're all voting against that. Yeah, no, it's unbelievable to me. But I would say to speak to why your question about why I feel hopeful. A, I believe in the American people. B, I wrote a book that's coming out in September and I did it deliberately because of this. And like, I hate to be a person who's like shilling their book, but like,
shill the shit out of that book.
I'm shilling. Here's the thing. I wrote it, I called it a return to common sense because I think that's what we need to do, right? And then I said how to fix America before we really blow it, because I actually believe we can fix America. I wrote a political book for non-political people, right? I laid out 6 fundamental American principles, no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, whether you are a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat, you're going to go, yeah, I agree with that. That makes America America. I think that's an American principle. 6 things that we can just agree on to find our way back to a common ground, to find our way back. Because once we defeat MAGA, which I highly, highly believe we are going to do, once we do that, it doesn't go away. It's not gone. Everything that, all that's been stirred up, it's here. So what do we do next? What's the next step? So I wanted to build a roadmap to follow, to say, we're going to take these 6 fundamental principles and we're going to get our way not only out of this mess, but to somewhere better. And so you can use those 6 fundamentals as like a new framework, a new foundation for the country to build a better nation on. And ultimately, it's not just a foundational pillar. It's kind of like a lens to look at our politicians through, to look at our legislation through, to look at our citizenry through and say, does it match these 6 fundamentals? And if it doesn't, it has no business in American politics. And to sort of simplify everything down to 6 things people can remember where they go, yeah, American freedom. I agree with that. And if you're taking my
podcast next week and talk about it.
Yeah, if you're taking my rights away, that's not freedom and it's not American fundamental. You know, and I think it's simple, and I believe we can do it.
I think you're absolutely right, Leigh, and I have to say, I'm looking forward to reading the book, and I think that you've identified something that a lot of Americans feel disconnected from politics because it seems like this secret world with its own language, its own inside rituals, and nobody can penetrate what it is and how it works. And yes, it is mysterious to people. But I'm glad you've written something that is like a clear sort of conversational way to approach this problem, because I think we lack that in the country. I think we lack that with people.
We do, and no one should feel bad about that. They shouldn't. They took basically the civics out of schools. We don't talk about politics. It's what we're told not to talk about. So it's no one's fault, but we need a way back.
And I love the timing. I mean, I love that it's coming out.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. It really gives a big burst into those last few months of the campaign going into November. So I hope people will be looking for it and highly recommend people pick it up.
Well, I hope they will too.
Thanks again for joining us tonight. Before we go, folks, I want to talk about something. I wrote a piece today that on my Substack called "What Will You Tell Your Kids?" And it was inspired by a friend of mine a few days ago sent me an email and said, I voted for Trump. I'm not comfortable, but and there's a very high net worth individual. And he's like, what do I do? I don't want my taxes to go up. And I said, the only question now is what will you tell your kids? And the piece has gotten a ridiculously strong reaction from folks today that it really moved a lot of them. And after he sent me the thing, I responded to him. I said, by the way, I'm going to make an ad out of this email back to you. So we did. Let me play that, and then we'll go out. Then we'll wrap up the show after that. Sam.
What will you tell your kids? That you voted for a felon and a criminal, supported and found guilty by a citizen jury, went into the voting booth happy to pull the lever for the only former president in history to bear the mark of criminal shame. Will you tell them that breaking the law is how they should live their lives? That lying to their families about porn stars and hush money is how they should behave? Do you want your son to treat women like a man who was found to have committed sexual assault? Do you want your daughter to be a victim of a man like him?
You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the...
Will you tell them that he was honest, that he was a good man?
Very fine people on both sides.
That he treated people the way you've taught them?
Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Will you tell them you're proud of his cruelty? Happy with the ugly insults?
I mean, I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers.
The attacks on women and the endless lies, that the chaos, death, and danger he brought was worth it. We know it's hard to walk away and put country over party, but your kids are watching. You're not just voting for your future, you're voting for theirs.
That was so good, man.
That's powerful.
I think that conversational sort of tone. I mean, I can tell you over at Lincoln, we're going to work a lot more of that message, and I think it is. It's why we put that in the rotation after talking about the book, because having those conversations with people when you're not talking about your marginal tax rate or any of this other decorative stuff, you're getting down to the gut of how are people going to decide this fall. And I think that's really important. And Leigh, I'm so pleased you came on the show tonight. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best with the book. I'll have my people call you on the podcast and go on Joe's podcast too. I mean, we got podcasts for days around here.
Podcasts for days.
Yes. But,
thanks for
I also
having
wanted
me, you guys.
Go ahead, Joe.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I wanted to put a plug again to folks out there who are watching. I mean, we started Resolute Square, but basically, Lincoln Project is out there fighting Trump and MAGA at the polls and making great ads like that Rick and others have worked on. But what this is about is people like Leigh who create a platform that is a media platform that takes on Fox and the disinformation and Breitbart and all the crazy stuff out there, give people a media platform where we can present their views, create new shows, and build beyond the strategy session. So, if you have people out there that you can try to talk to and ask them to become members and support us, we have a 30-day free membership trial going on right now. This is really important. We can build this thing into the tens of thousands, into the hundreds of thousands, and really produce good quality shows and that have facts-based and truth-telling and stop the disinformation and take on the right that's been built by billionaires for over 30, 40 years. That's the machine we're up against.
Yep.
And we all have to build that machine. No billionaire is going to roll in here to do it for us. And you're the earliest supporters of ours. We appreciate you. Keep supporting us. Get people to join us. It's really important. Encourage them to do the 30-day free trial. And let's keep building a media platform that we can do more shows like this and get the information out there in time for November.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you again for joining us on the strategy session. As always, I want to thank our friend Leigh for joining us tonight. Joe, thank you, my friend. Next week, we will have Simon Rosenberg, always a fan favorite of the show. We will talk, oh my God, 2 optimistic shows in a row. We're going to have to do something doom-wise. But thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. Appreciate you all, and thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Leigh.